Send a notice out, which we've already done. And then we check to see if the live feature is working. Which we've already done. Yeah, it's working. So we are live. Okay. Now, that happy note. Let's go back to Zoom. Okay. We're ready to roll. Okay, today we'll start chanting with the guitar again. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Gokula Taruni Mandala Maite Taruni Mandala Maidai Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Rati Vardana Veshe Adinis Kutavina Vineshe Damodara Rati Vardana Veshe Adinis Kutavina Vineshe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Vishavanutani Navashashileke Lalita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Vishavanutani Navashashileke Lalita Saki Guna Ramita Vishake Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Karuna Korumai Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Karuna Korumai Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhavadai Tarone Mandala Mahite Tarone Mandala Mahite Run hey Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Run hey Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Run hey Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Gaur Haribo 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 Jai Gaur Haribo Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravaticacharya O Sateta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Savaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Marashila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namana Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Devashesha Sunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarne Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So let's read the translation to this song by Srila Rupa Goswami. O Radha, all glories unto you, all glories unto you, beloved of Madhava, object of worship for all the young girls of Gokula. You dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. You are the controller of Vrindavan, the pleasure groves of Lord Hari. You are a new moon arisen from the ocean of King Brishapanu. You are the friend of Lalita, and your wonderful qualities, friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna endear you to Vishaka. You are an ocean of compassion, and your divine characteristics are described by the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatan, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar. O Radha, please be merciful to me. Srila Rupa Goswami Ki Jai. So today we're going to continue with our study of Srila Prabhupada's book, In Search of the Truth. And of course this is based upon the conversation that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had with Ramananda Roy on the banks of the Godavari River in Rajamundry. And in this particular situation, Lord Chaitanya is acting like the student and Ramananda Roy is acting like the professor. And of course Lord Chaitanya keeps asking Ramananda Roy questions to draw out the highest goal, number one, and the method for achieving that highest goal. The two things, the highest goal and the method for achieving the highest goal. And so in the last few days, there was a discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, the last 2 days actually. First of all, Ramananda Roy said to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the method of achieving the absolute truth is varnashram. And Lord Chaitanya rejected that as external. Then Ramananda Roy posited the theory that the best method for achieving the absolute truth was Yat Karoshi Yadishnashi Yash Jahoshi Dadasi Yat Yata Pasha Shi Kantia Tad Kurishwa Mararpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you offer should be done as an offering to Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this is very, very vague, and also there's many people who are just doing things and offering to Krishna for material purposes. And so he said, go higher. And then Ramananda Roy presented, well, then one should just reject the Varnashram culture and take sannyas. And Lord Chaitanya said, that's external. So let's hear something even higher. So anyway, so let's continue. Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shigadave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And actually, by the mercy of Prabhupada, we're having access to this highest knowledge. I mean, before we came in touch with Prabhupada, we had access to the lowest knowledge, or actually no knowledge, ajnana, ignorance. Okay, let's share the screen and continue with our study of this wonderful book by Srila Prabhupada, In Search of the Absolute Truth. So now we're on to the point of what's called mixed devotion. So Lord Chaitanya previously, as I mentioned before, he rejected the idea of just taking sannyas to become Krishna conscious. He said that's simply external, and there's many, many impersonalists who take sannyas and they're not in the least Krishna conscious. Okay, so the next one is called mixed devotion. Okay, let me just get centered here. Ramananda, having realized the desire of Lord Chaitanya, then suggested an improved process called calculated devotion. Jnana Mishra Bhakti. So, previously, Ramananda Roy had suggested Karma Mishra Bhakti, which is actually also mixed devotion. But Karma Mishra Bhakti is bhakti mixed with a desire for some fruit of result, and Jnana Mishra Bhakti is a bhakti mixed with a desire for liberation. Okay, so driven by a false sense of oneness with the absolute truth, the empiric philosopher tries to make an analytical study of the cosmic situation to find out the absolute truth. When he has done so, he becomes cheerful on account of his self-realization. The symptoms of perfect realization of the absolute truth, which promote one to the stage of pure devotional service to the personality of Godhead, are described in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, text 54. We'll go to the next page. This was quoted by Ramananda as a further improvement on the suggestion of renunciation of karma. This is a very important verse. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nashochati nakangshati samaksarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. I'm going to set something up here. Oh, I gotta get the menu. I didn't set up what I had to set up. There we go. All right. Okay, there we go. The practitioner who has realized the absolute truth as the non-differentiated and personal Brahman does not lament over any material loss, neither does he desire any material gain. He is equipoised towards all objects of the material world, and these conditions make him a fit make him fit to be promoted to the pure devotional service of Godhead. That's called the Brahma Bhuta stage. In other words, you realize that you're spirit and you're no longer attached to things in this material world, nor repulsed by things in this material world. And that's an important prerequisite for coming to Krishna consciousness. However, it's not a necessary prerequisite, because one can come to Krishna consciousness directly without coming through this impersonal Brahmabhuta stage. Because Krishna consciousness automatically gives you this realization that you are a soul. So you don't have to go, first I'm a soul, I'm spiritual, and then you think, well, what does a soul do? No. First you take up Krishna consciousness, and then automatically you get this Brahmabhuta realization, but not the impersonal Brahmabhuta realization, but the personal one. However, the Brahmabhuta state of consciousness is also not a fully transcendental state of spiritual existence. The supra-mental consciousness, as exists in the spiritual kingdom of Vaikuntha, is a further development. Supra means overcoming the mental platform, the physical platform, and in the Jnana Mishra Bhakti, it's like the mental platform. The Brahmabhuta state of consciousness is undoubtedly free from gross material consciousness. Although touching the absolute truth indicates a transcendental feeling, it is not the actual transcendental position for realizing the activities of Vaikuntha. As such, it is also external. Because, why is it external? Because it's me-centered, or you-centered, rather than centered on Krishna. I have realized that I'm a soul, I'm spirit, aham brahmasmi. So that's me-centered. But to realize the activities of Vaikuntha, what to speak of entering into the Goloka Vrindavan planet, then it has to be about Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. I'm trying to please Krishna. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. Not simply, I'm a soul. But that's the jnana stage. Lord Chaitanya wants the living entity to be free from every type of material consciousness, including being unconcerned with empiric knowledge and fruitive activities. One should stay in pure consciousness, even a tinge of material consciousness causes an impersonal conception of the absolute truth. In all these different stages of material consciousness, only imaginary arguments predominate over the absolute personality of Godhead. Predominate means appear to be superior to the concept of the absolute personality of God. It's only imagination. Imaginary argumentative endeavors are detrimental to the pure devotional service of Godhead, and as such, even the liberated state, as above mentioned, is external. This liberated state is something like the convalescent stage after relief from a disease. If a convalescent person is not properly taken care of, a relapse of the disease may mar the whole attempt at recovery. In other words, if you recover from a disease, but don't enact or perform or again experience your real active life, then it's not really recovery. Recovery means to go back to your natural situation, not simply stay in the hospital as a well person. It doesn't work, because then you get sick again. You're going to get infected in the hospital. In the Brahmabhuta liberated stage, one has not yet obtained a resting place at the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. As such, one is still unsupported and thus runs the chance of falling down again to material activities. It is therefore also external, and thus the fourth suggestion of Ramananda was rejected by Lord Chaitanya. So that's called Jnana Mishra Bhakti. means bhakti contaminated with the desire for liberation. In other words, you're worshiping Krishna, but Krishna and the worship of Krishna is just a stepping stone so that you can get liberated. Or you're speculating on the nature of the absolute truth, and that speculation yields an impersonal understanding. It's still about me, or you, but not about Krishna anymore. So that's called Jnana Mishra Bhakti, mixed. Mishra means, actually the word Mishra means mixed. And Bhakti, of course, means devotional service, but it's mixed with a desire for liberation, basically, or for speculation. And ultimately, speculation, desire for liberation, yields an impersonal understanding, an impersonal realization. And then you have to fall down from that realization and understanding, because it's not the permanent situation of the soul, which is what? Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Nitya Krishna Das, that you're an eternal servant of who? Guess. Take 3 guesses. Krishna. Knowledge-free. The next stage is knowledge-free devotion. And this is transcendental. Okay. Ramananda then suggests in the beginning of pure devotional service, unconcerned with empiric knowledge, that's Jnana Mishra Bhakti, or fruit of activity, which is Karma Mishra Bhakti. Mishra, as I mentioned before, means mixed. Karma means with the fruits. You know, I'm serving Krishna because I'm going to become wealthy. And sometimes, it's an interesting thing, Prabhupada would sort of like hold out a carrot, so to speak, not a literal carrot, a figurative carrot, like the donkey has a carrot, to attract people to Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada would say, come to Krishna consciousness and Krishna will take care of all your needs. And even if you want to find a wife, you'll find a nice wife in Krishna consciousness. Of course, people should not come to Krishna consciousness for these ulterior purposes, but it's better they come to Krishna consciousness for any purpose. It's better that they come than not come, even if their purpose in the beginning is not so good. And of course, the perfect example of Karma Mishra Bhakti, perfect examples are example is Dhruva Maharaj. That's Karma Mishra Bhakti. He wanted a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma, and so he was worshipping Krishna for that. And an example of Jnana Mishra Bhakti, though, would be the Chatushana, the 4 Kumaras. To support this suggestion, Ramananda quoted a statement of Brahma during his prayer of regret before Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This is from the Bhagavatam. Famous verse. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam vavadiya vartam stane stita shritikatam tanvan manobir ye prayasho jita jitopyashi taistrilokyam. O my Lord, those devotees who completely give up the attempt to become one with you by the culture of empiric knowledge, that is, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and simply try to hear about your glories from the mouths of self-realized saints, and who live a virtuous life, can easily achieve your favor, although you are unconquerable by anyone within the 3 worlds. That's from the Bhagavatam 10:14. 3. I mean, it's 10th canto, 14th chapter, text 3. Famous prayer of Lord Brahma. In other words, if you give up the fruit of desire, and if you give up the desire for liberation, and you simply hear about Krishna from the lips of Krishna's pure devotees, then you can conquer Krishna. Wow, that's pretty nice, isn't it? Okay. Next page. All right. This stage of culturing devotional service directly was accepted by Lord Chaitanya. All the previously described stages of the culture of spiritual realization were rejected by Lord Chaitanya, most logically. So this is the first one he actually accepts wholeheartedly. The Lord, however, accepted the universal method of hearing the glories of the personality of Godhead in all circumstances from the mouths of self-realized souls and giving up the attempt to become one with Godhead. So in other words, the most important thing is to hear about Krishna. There's no need to change your position. In fact, this particular verse was spoken by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the Brahmin Vasudeva from South India, when the Brahmana wanted to follow Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and take sannyas. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't even talk like that. Stay home and stani stata shruti katam tanvan manobir. Just engage in hearing and chanting. So that's transcendental. Everything that went before this in this discussion is not transcendental, or maybe partially transcendental. The poison of attempting to become one with Godhead kills the nucleus, that means the very center, the essence of devotional service. Anyone actually desiring to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of Godhead must definitely give up this idea for good, the idea of becoming one with God or merging into God. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that the idea of being one with Godhead is the topmost type of pretension. Even a slight development of this idea will completely eliminate the prospect for devotional service. This is the most dangerous misconception in spiritual life, and one should at once give up the idea. Better to be a materialist, actually. So next heading is hearing from self-realized souls. A pure living entity being always subservient to the Almighty Godhead, Sri Krishna, should reverentially give an oral reception to the transcendental sound vibration emanating from the mouth of a self-realized soul describing the glories of the personality of Godhead. Only a self-realized soul can produce the powerful effect of transcendental sound. Devotees must live thoroughly honest lives in all respects by their body, mind, and words. These are the simple methods of culturing spiritual realization to its zenith. In other words, Prabhupada is saying one should cultivate the mode of goodness in one's personal life and at the same time hear from these great souls. Two things. Hear from the great souls, and of course the other processes of bhakti. But personally, you should cultivate the mode of goodness, which means being honest, truthful, not political, controlling your anger. Prabhu. Lord Chaitanya approved of this simple method for all classes of people without any distinction of caste, creed, color, or education. The only qualification of the practitioners is essential for the spiritual culture is that they at once give up the idea of becoming one with Godhead. This idea of becoming one with Godhead is generally only acquired by the empiric philosopher, but otherwise every human being naturally feels that God is greater than himself and that he is always subservient to his wishes. The empiric philosopher thinks, I can become God. Even a great personality like Mahatma Gandhi always spoke in terms of God as great. Gandhi often said, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of God. Therefore, the imaginary idea of becoming one with Godhead is a mental creation of the empiric. Empiric philosopher means one who speculates with his mundane mind and also accepts empiric evidence. That means evidence that you can see, touch, smell with your senses, or with the extension of the senses known as the scientific instruments. That's an empiric philosopher. Okay. Mental creation of the empiric philosopher is a result of his material vanity. That's pride in his own abilities. Otherwise, the idea has no substance. You cannot become one with God. The idea of becoming one with God is artificial, and a simple-hearted person is always against such an idea. It's a horrible idea. You can't do it, And it's a horrible idea anyway. It's offensive. Rejecting the idea of becoming one with Godhead is always natural for everyone, and nobody has to make any special attempt to dismiss this foolishness. And also, we should understand nobody else has become God. No matter how many tricks, magical tricks they can do, they can pull a rabbit from a hat. When I was young, we used to have a magician come to our birthday parties, and there were rabbits coming out of the hats, there was money being pulled from people's ears, all sorts of interesting things. A lady sawed in half. But we didn't think that those people were God. Now, in India, sometimes it happens, like a good magician, or even someone with some mystic powers, mundane mystic powers, Laghima Siddhi, Mahima Siddhi, Prapti Siddhi. Sometimes they're considered to be God. Oh my God. The next qualification is become gentle and humble when hearing from a self-realized soul. The Bhagavad Gita is the direct transcendental message of Godhead, and the prospective devotee must receive this message with all gentleness and humility from a self-realized soul. Of course, that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches us. Tadvini pradipatena pariprashnena seveya. The one must inquire submissively and render service. The method of receiving the message of Godhead, as mentioned in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, is to hear from the chain of disciplic succession. What is that verse? Imam parampara pratam imam rajashayo vidahu. It is said there that the system of spiritual realization was first disclosed to Vivaswan, the sun god, who transmitted the message to Manu, the father of mankind. Manu then transmitted the subject to his son Ikshvaku. By the transcendental method of disciplic succession, the system was realized by all the Rajarshis or saintly kings. Unfortunately, the chain was broken and the message had to again be revived, beginning with Arjuna, the friend and devotee of Sri Krishna. The respective devotee's qualification on hearing the transcendental message will not depend on birth, heritage, education, caste, creed, color, or nationality, but will depend on what? Humility. That's a hard one. Let's see. Depend on humility there's an and there. And finding the proper source for receiving the transcendental message. The mystery of the message, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, must therefore be understood in terms of the realization of Arjuna and no one else, and nobody else. The realization of Arjuna is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, and whoever speaks in the line of that realization is to be considered a self-realized soul. The message of Bhagavad Gita is to be heard from a self-realized soul, and not from anyone speculating on dry subjects with imaginary meanings. The unbona fide attempt, or bogus attempt, at hearing will simply be a waste of time. In other words, if you go to a Bhagavad Saptaha and the person there is not on the path of devotional service, the path of pure devotional service, then it's a waste of time. It actually will poison your devotional service. The devotee must always be careful that the speaker is in the transcendental line of disciplic succession called the parampara. So that not only must be in the line, must be acting in the line. Someone could say, well, my spiritual master was a bona fide member of the parampara, but I'm not such a good devotee. No. You must be a good devotee, and also the spiritual master or spiritual preceptor, whoever it is, must be a good devotee. The qualification of the prospective devotee should be that he must live an honest life by his body, mind, and words, which will all depend on the mercy of Godhead. That's really interesting. Honest life. This again, the mode of goodness. Honesty. Be honest not only with other people, that's important, of course, but to be honest with yourself. Oftentimes we lie to ourselves. We think we understand. We think we're more realized than we actually are. But just look at yourself and think, How advanced am I? What is my stage of devotional service? Be honest. Be humble. Oh, yes, I'm still tortured by all these material desires. Be honest with yourself. Why put on a show? Why put on a facade? That means a false front. So this is really important. So the next stage, so there's going to be a higher stage than this. But of course, this is a good stage, pure devotional service, hearing and chanting. But then higher than that, because you're talking about, first of all, the sadhana bhakti or the vaidhi bhakti aspect of sadhana bhakti. And the next highest we're going to talk about now, or Ramananda Roy is going to talk about now, is called spontaneous love of Godhead, Raganuga Bhakti. Thus, the preliminary stage of culturing devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge was accepted by Lord Chaitanya, who then asked Ramananda Roy to proceed further in developing the service sentiment to higher and higher stages of love of Godhead until the highest stage was reached. So Lord Chaitanya accepted, yes, devotional service, pure devotional service, cultivating devotional service is the method and the goal, but go higher than this. Give me a higher understanding. Even though your previous understanding was correct, give me a higher understanding. Ramananda answered that progress in this line will end in the loving service of Godhead. Every living entity has within his heart a dormant and eternal love of Godhead. There it is. It is inherent. Every living entity has within his heart a dormant and eternal love of God. It just has to be woken up. Jiv Jago, Gaura Chanda Bole. Spiritual culture is the attempt to revive that eternal love of Godhead to its spontaneous stage. Spontaneous means that you don't have to practice it anymore. It just happens automatically. You wake up in the morning, Hare Krishna. You think of Krishna 24 hours a day. And the beginning of that attempt is receiving the transcendental message of Godhead from the right source, the self-realized soul. After receiving the transcendental message, this conception has to be developed to the spontaneous love of Godhead. Ramananda Roy describes the process in the following words. Okay, to the top of the page again. Nano Vachara Krita Pujana Martabando Premaiva Bhakti Hridayam Sukha Vidrutam Shat Yavakshurashti Jathare Jarata Pipasha Tavat Sukhaya Bhavato Nanubhaksha Peye. As long as there is acute hunger, this is from Rupa Goswami's Pajavali. As long as there is acute hunger in the stomach, there is pleasure in eating and drinking. Similarly, as long as ecstatic, spontaneous love of God is aroused in the mind of a devotee, the worship of Godhead with all kinds of paraphernalia becomes the real cause of happiness. In other words, spontaneous love of God means not that we're doing things simply because of rules and regulations. We're doing things because we have a hunger to connect with Krishna. It's an acute. So here's the acute means intense hunger. It just came up. We're very hungry to associate with Krishna. So then one becomes enthusiastic to worship Krishna spontaneously. The purport of this statement is that hunger is the cause of pleasure in taking foodstuffs. Similarly, spontaneous love of God is the cause of all pleasure in spiritual culture. So sometimes this is described by the word lo yam. That's greed, spiritual greed. And that's the cause of pleasure. When you're greedy for something, when you're hungry, you can enjoy food. If you're not hungry, you may eat because your mother told you to eat. And if you don't eat, we're not going to let you play. But it's not really enjoyable. Eating is enjoyable when you're good and hungry. In the same way, Krishna consciousness, of course, is always enjoyable, but in the beginning stage, it may be a little painful because you're actually not attracted. You have jaundice, spiritual jaundice, so you're not attracted to sugar. So Prabhupada gave the example that if you have jaundice, even though you're not attracted to sugar or sweet things, you take them anyway because that's the cure. So when you have spiritual jaundice, even though you're not attracted to Krishna consciousness, you take it anyway because that's the cure. And then when you overcome that spiritual jaundice, you're spontaneously attracted. And you're spontaneously hungry. And you're spontaneously greedy for Krishna consciousness. Srila Ramananda Roy quoted another shloka as follows. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati Kriyatam Yari Katopi Labhyate Tatralayam Apilbuyam Ekwalam Janmakoti Shukratarana Labhyate. So that word that I just used, loyam, or greed, is in there. So one should beg or purchase Krishna consciousness wherever it is. That should be one's enthusiasm. The intelligence for achieving the loving service of Godhead may be purchased from anywhere it is available. The price for such a purchase is strong desire. That's loyam. That means intense greed. Intense greed is a strong desire for achieving such a stage of life. Such a strong desire for rendering loving service unto the personality of Godhead is very, very rare because it is developed by accumulating the results of many virtuous, purifying acts in thousands and thousands of lives. So how can we achieve it? That's from the Pajavali 14. So how can we achieve it without going through all these thousands and thousands of lives? I don't have time to go through thousands and thousands of lives. I want to do it now by taking good association. And when you take good association, especially the association of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, then you can actually make a shortcut and not have to go through all those thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. Okay, next page. Desire for rendering loving service unto the personality Godhead is an invaluable desire, and it brings the highest spiritual perfection. It is very rarely seen in the ordinary course of life. Lord Chaitanya, being the most magnanimous incarnation of the personality of Godhead, out of his kindness and causeless mercy upon the fallen souls of the sage of Kali, is prepared to bestow the highest benefit of life by the simple method of hearing and chanting the glories of the personality of Godhead, the Sankirtan movement. Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtan. That in this age of Kali, the one Dharma, Ekon Dharma, is Krishna Nama Sankirtan. That's all you got to do. Don't commit offenses. Don't break the four regulative principles, but, just engage in hearing and chanting. This is the beginning of the transcendental method, gradually reaching to the stage of spontaneous love of Godhead. Then, we're even going to go higher. Wow, how can we go higher than that? To develop the Dasha Prema, Dasha means the love of service, to develop, or the service attitude out of love. To develop the conception, Lord Chaitanya asked Ramananda to go further. As such, Ramananda first suggested the devotional service called Dasha Prema, or the mellow of transcendental servitude. He quoted a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam uttered by Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni, with the pride of the caste Brahmin, envied the pure devotee Maharaj Ambarish, who happened to be a householder king and by caste a Kshatriya. Durvasa wanted to put Maharaj Ambarish in trouble by the strength of his mystic prowess. When Ambarish Maharaj was put into trouble, the disc weapon of Lord Vishnu, the Sudarshana Chakra, appeared to rescue Maharaj Ambarish and attacked Durvasa for his nefarious deed of troubling a pure devotee. As Durvasa was being harassed by the Sudarshana Chakra of Lord Vishnu, he came to his senses and understood that he was mistaken in considering a pure devotee to be less qualified than a mystic like himself. In the end, Durvasa was excused by Maharaj Ambarish, who was naturally always forgiving to everyone. Durvasa Muni, being relieved from his misconception of caste predominance, praised the personality of Godhead and his sweet relationship with his pure devotee. He said, "Nothing is impossible for a pure devotee of the personality of Godhead, because simply by hearing his transcendental name, a person becomes purified of all vices." The purport is that if a person can become purified of all sins simply by hearing the holy name of Godhead, what is impossible for his servant who is constantly engaged in his service? Durvasa Muni acknowledged the supremacy of a servant of Godhead over any kind of yogi. What to speak of a jnani or karmi? A jnani again means empiric philosopher, when speculates with his mundane mind, or karmi, fruitive worker who wants something in this world, something that you can touch and feel and smell and taste and stuff like that. So I guess we should tell the story. So Durvasa Muni, he came to Maharaj Ambarish one day, and Maharaj Ambarish was undergoing a fast for many days, and it was time for him to break the fast. There was a ritual in terms of breaking the fast called the Ekadasi Purana. Durvasa Muni came right when Maharaj Ambarish was supposed to break the fast, and Maharaj Ambarish knew that if he didn't break the fast, it would also be an offense in one sense. At the same time, he knew that if he ate before his guest, that was an offense. So he thought, what am I going to do? Because Durvasa Muni had gone to take a bath, and it was the time for breaking the fast, and so he decided, on the advice of his Brahmin ministers, to drink some water, because drinking water is breaking a fast and not breaking a fast simultaneously. Durvasa Muni comes back, gets really angry at Maharaj Ambarish, creates a demon to kill Maharaj Ambarish, and then Krishna's Sudarshan chakra comes out, kills the demon, starts the chase. Durvasa Muni all over the material world. Durvasa Muni even goes to Lord Vishnu and says, "Please save me." And Lord Vishnu says, "I can't do anything about it. The only solution is for you to beg forgiveness." So he goes back to Maharaj Ambarish, who in the meantime has been praying and fasting for the benefit of Durvasa Muni. And so he begs forgiveness. They become good friends. And Durvasa Muni appreciates the exalted position of a devotee over any kind of yogi or jnani or karmi. So that's the whole story in a nutshell. The transcendental bliss that is enjoyed by a servant of the personality of Godhead has been described by Sri Yamunacharya. He said, "O my Lord, when shall I feel myself to be absolutely faithful, bona fide, to be yours, absolutely faithful, bona fide servant, and live in transcendental cheerfulness by constantly obeying your orders after being completely free from all mental speculative desires." Also, Shripad Yamunacharya had a famous quote that, "Since I've been tasting newer ras in spiritual life," ras means like a taste, of course, and more ecstasy, whenever I think of enjoyment, particularly the sexual enjoyment, I simply spit. One time Prabhupada was telling that story, and Prabhupada would sometimes pronounce the word spit as spite. With his accent, I'd simply spite. And so then he actually spat at that particular point when he's telling the story. He got so, let's say, emotionally connected with that story and Shripad Yamunacharya's attitude that I simply spite at it. Very interesting story. Okay, So tomorrow we're going to go to Sakya Prem. Sakya means friendship. So what we're seeing here is Lord Chaitanya accepts pure devotional service, hearing and chanting, and then there's this. Then there's the service. Basically going out through the rasas. So first of all, there's the Shanti, uh, Shantaras, which is the peaceful ras, where you're performing hearing, chanting about Krishna, and there may not be any service. And then after that, there's pure devotional service without any. Anyway, then after there's pure devotional service without any tinge, jnana, and karma. And after that, you have Dasha Prem, which means becoming a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then after that, you have Sakya, and I guess you can understand what's happening after that. There's Vatsalya, the parental, and then finally Madhurya. But then Lord Chaitanya is going to keep asking Ramananda Roy to go even further or higher than Madhurya Ras, and that should be interesting for us to hear about. So we'll continue that tomorrow. Actually, let me make an announcement after we stop sharing the screen, and then after that we'll take some questions. So tomorrow, we're not going to continue that because it's a special day. Tomorrow is the celebration of the glorious appearance day of Sri Advaita Acharya, Srila Advaita Acharya, who is the personality of Godhead. And we're going to give a class in the morning here, which is, I guess, late at night for Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, on Advaita Acharya. And then at this same time, we're going to be speaking about Advaita Acharya. We'll probably do a little slideshow about Advaita Acharya just to illustrate everything. And so tomorrow is Advaita Acharya's appearance day. And it's also a fast day for those of you who fast. Because Advaita Acharya is Vishnu Tattva. He is non-different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's one of the 3 Vishnu Tattva personalities who are members of the Pancha Tattva. So that's tomorrow evening. Very, very important day. And the next week, about 1 week from then, from tomorrow, we're going to be celebrating Lord Nityananda's appearance day. Here in Nugaloka, it's on a Thursday. And wherever you are, I'm not sure where it is or when it is, but it's next week. And then after that, shortly after that, I'll be going to India, and we'll put a pause. There'll be a pause on the classes for a while I'm in India. Okay, so on that happy note, we'll allow you to ask questions. Who wants to ask a question? You're allowed to unmute yourselves. You can unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand, and then I will call on you, like in the schoolroom, or you can type in the chat window. So please ask a question. Does anyone have a question about anything we read today in Prabhupada's book? Okay, Miss Tulsi, so what is your question?
No, thank you, please. So, when you're talking about not pretending we're more advanced and everything, so still Krishna is trying to help us advance by putting us in situations where we have to at least act better.
Yeah.
But then it's easy. I mean, I could see it's a trap to get caught up in thinking we're actually that.
Yeah,
And
that's true. That's true. It's danger, yeah, because you have to act better because you're setting an example for others, instructing others, and then you think, well, I'm a real high platform of devotional service. But one should always be thinking, what's that famous verse? But for the grace of God, there go I. That means we're all in it together. I think Prabhupada, even though he was on the highest platform of devotional service, he, in one sense, considered that his disciples, in one sense, they were like teaching him, or they were representatives of his guru that were sent to assist him. And Prabhupada was extremely humble. We have to cultivate humility, which means to think about ourselves less. But to be honest, I'm honest. We have to be honest. What is our material situation? How many material desires do we? Not how many. We couldn't count them. But how immersed we are in material desires, material aspirations. How immersed we are. So, just honesty is extremely important for a devotee. And if one is honest, one will be humble. One won't try to lord it over others, thinking themselves better than others, or engage in a type of spiritual abuse. Because we're not. No great devotee, even if you are a lot higher than everybody else, will think of himself or herself as being better. So, you think of yourself as being given a service, like the guru thinks of himself or thinks of his situation as a service that's been given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his guru. Okay, so, good question. So, here's a question in the chat window. Let me answer that first. In the chat window. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please accept my obeisances. Taking association of a pure devotee and hearing from him isn't just association and hearing, it's more on the practical of applying what they are preaching. That's right. Because to hear someone, you got to apply it. Otherwise, you're just listening. There's a difference between listening and hearing. Listening means something like in one ear, out another ear. There's nothing in between, But Maharaji, a lot of teachings are not applicable right away. We are trying and succeeding, failing various times. So how do we understand that since we are failing? Maybe we're not following Prabhupada and the sincere devotees. No. We don't resent the highest principles. We're honest in not being able to follow the highest practices or principles, like remembering Krishna 24 hours a day, like that. So, as long as we don't resent it or make an excuse, part of resenting it is making an excuse. Not practical to do these things. Following four regular principles is not practical. I mean, I hear this sometimes from people that, you have to understand things are different now than when you grew up. Things are different. You have to understand this is part of life now. Breaking the four regulative principles is just part of my life. How can you ask me to give it up? Or, I had one instance, I need to take liquor. Why do I need to take liquor? Because it's my business. Not the word of the liquor business. And the person was a real estate salesman. And he was thinking, when I have to deal with all the customers and other salesmen and other property owners and everything like that, I have to entertain them. I said, why don't you entertain them with some soda or something like that, rather than with some liquor. So you make so many excuses for not being able to follow. So, okay, next question is Sam. You have a question?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Haribol.
How do you deal with non-devotees who, I have to be around them and they look at like Krishna consciousness like total ridicule. Something like that. Like they really like what? Krishna, like real ridicule to them. And how do you deal with them those kind of people on a day-to-day basis, non-devotees?
Well, I basically wouldn't tell them about Krishna. I mean, if you have to work a job, or are in charge of other people, non-devotees or whatever, on a daily basis, I don't tell people about things that they're not ready to hear about. Now, of course, with me, if people see me in a dhoti, obviously they understand about Krishna. That's a different situation. But I also don't have to work in the business field or any sort of outside job. But if I did, then I would definitely wear regular clothes and, I would have some signs of being a devotee, like, neck beads and everything like that. And if people asked, and if they were ready to hear, I would tell them that. But I would tell them what they're capable of hearing. In other words, I would say, well, I practice yoga. I may not tell them about Krishna if they're not ready to hear about Krishna. I say I practice yoga, reincarnation. I explain Krishna consciousness on that level, rather than bring in God, God. So I would, if people really want to hear, and they want to hear more, I'll explain more. But you have to really understand who or how much someone is able to hear. That requires discrimination. Otherwise, I don't talk about it. Many times I have to interact with people in the outside world, and it's just like go to the doctor. When you get old, you go to the doctor a lot. So I go to the doctor, and sometimes the doctor asks me, what do you do? And I say, I'm like a minister. And if they ask more, what religion? I say, well, it's the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And depending on what they ask, I don't volunteer or push the information on them, because that would be one of the offenses in chanting Hare Krishna, to instruct the faithless about the glories of chanting Hare Krishna. So you have to be really careful about that. Good question. All right, it's time to end. So we'll see everybody tomorrow, when we're going to talk about Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the, not Bhakti Siddhanta, I get this day wrong, Advaitacharya. We're going to talk about Advaitacharya, the personality of Godhead, who called for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to advent himself in this world. So thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami.